You woke up this morning, went through the motions of getting ready, grabbed your coffee and started your day. But here's the thing. You weren't really there. Not fully. You were present in body, but your mind was somewhere else, running on a script you didn't even write. And I know this because you clicked on this video, because something inside you recognizes that you've been sleepwalking through your own life, going through the motions without actually living them, moving forward without really knowing where you're going or why you're going there. If that hits close to home, then this video is for you, because what you're experiencing isn't laziness, it isn't lack of motivation, it's something much more common and much more fixable than you think. Here's what's really happening. Your brain is actually working exactly as it's supposed to. It's designed to be efficient, to save energy, to turn repeated actions into habits so you don't have to think about every little thing you do. When you brush your teeth, you don't consciously think about each movement. When you drive to work, you don't actively decide to turn left at every familiar corner. Your brain takes over and handles it automatically. This is actually brilliant design. It frees up your mental energy for important decisions and new challenges. But here's where things go sideways. When too much of your life becomes automatic, when most of your days are governed by routines you barely notice, that same brain efficiency starts working against you. The part of your brain that handles habits, it's like having a very reliable but very boring assistant. It can handle the repetitive stuff perfectly, but it has no interest in creativity, emotion, or meaning. So when this assistant starts running most of your life, you end up feeling like you're living someone else's script. You're efficient at existing, but you're not really alive. Think about your typical day. How much of it feels like you're consciously choosing what to do versus just following a routine? If most of your day feels automatic, that's your brain's efficiency mode taking over. And while it's keeping you functional, it's also keeping you numb. But it's not just about habits. There's something else happening that makes this whole sleepwalking thing even worse. Modern life has a way of keeping us constantly busy without actually being fulfilling. You know that feeling when you're always doing something but nothing feels meaningful? When you're so focused on keeping up with everything that you never have a moment to actually enjoy anything? You end up in this weird space where you're moving all the time but not really going anywhere. You're constantly checking things off your list, but the list never gets shorter. You're always busy, always productive, but somehow none of it feels like it matters. The problem is, for a lot of us, this constant busyness has become our permanent state. We're always putting out fires, always catching up, always preparing for the next thing. And when you're constantly in that mode, you lose touch with the parts of yourself that actually enjoy things, that find meaning in experiences, that feel excited about possibilities. And here's the thing that makes it even more frustrating. You look around and see other people who seem to have figured it out. People who seem genuinely excited about their lives, who light up when they talk about their work or their hobbies or their relationships. And you wonder what they know that you don't, what you're missing, why you can't seem to feel that same spark. There's another piece to this puzzle that most people don't realize. Your brain actually needs variety to feel alive. It needs new experiences, small challenges, little surprises. When every day looks exactly the same, when every week follows the same pattern, your brain stops releasing the chemicals that make you feel good. Think about it like this. Your brain has a reward system that's designed to make you feel excited about things that are good for your survival and growth. New experiences, learning something, accomplishing a challenge. These things trigger a little hit of satisfaction, a small burst of "this feels good." But when you do the same things over and over, when your routine becomes completely predictable, that reward system goes quiet. It's like your brain says, "I already know how this goes. I don't need to pay attention anymore." And without those little hits of interest and satisfaction, life starts to feel flat, colorless, like you're going through the motions without any of the joy that's supposed to come with living. This is why you can have a life that looks perfectly fine from the outside, maybe even successful, but still feel empty inside. You're not getting the mental nutrition your brain needs to feel engaged and alive. But there's something even deeper going on, something that's harder to notice but might be the biggest factor of all. You might be living a life that doesn't actually reflect who you are. Not because you made bad choices, but because somewhere along the way, you started living according to other people's definitions of what your life should look like. Maybe it started in school, where success was defined by grades and following rules. Then in your career, where success became about titles and paychecks. Maybe in your personal life, where you started making choices based on what looked good to others rather than what felt right to you. And over time, you built a life that works on paper but doesn't actually fit who you are inside. You're living someone else's version of success, following someone else's roadmap, trying to be the person you think you're supposed to be instead of the person you actually are. When you're constantly trying to be someone you're not, nothing feels authentic. Nothing feels truly satisfying because it's not really you doing it. You're just playing a role, reading lines from a script you didn't write. And that disconnect between who you are and how you're living creates this hollow feeling that no amount of external success can fill. The exhausting part is that you might not even realize this is happening. You might think this is just how adult life feels, that this numbness, this going through the motions, is just what it means to be responsible and mature. But it's not. It's what happens when you lose touch with your authentic self and start living according to other people's expectations. But here's what I want you to know. That feeling you have, that sense that something is missing, that awareness that you're sleepwalking through your life, that's not a problem. That's actually the beginning of the solution, because you can't change something you don't notice. You can't wake up from sleepwalking if you don't realize you're asleep. The fact that you're watching this video, the fact that something inside you is saying, this isn't enough, that's your authentic self trying to break through. That's the part of you that knows you're capable of more than just existing. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need to completely overhaul your life to start feeling alive again. You don't need to quit your job, move to another country, or make dramatic changes. You just need to start waking up in small ways, to begin paying attention, to start choosing instead of just following the script. The first step is so simple it might seem almost too easy, but it's the foundation of everything else. You need to start being present in your own life. Not all the time, that's unrealistic, but in small moments throughout your day. Instead of rushing through your morning routine while your mind is already at work, try actually experiencing it. Feel the water when you wash your face. Taste your coffee instead of just drinking it. Notice how your body feels as you move through your space. When you're walking somewhere, instead of being lost in thought or scrolling your phone, try actually seeing where you are. Notice the light, the sounds, the feeling of your feet touching the ground. When you're talking to someone, instead of planning what you'll say next, try actually listening to what they're saying. This isn't about becoming some Zen master. It's about waking up your conscious brain. When you're truly present, when you're actually experiencing what's happening instead of just going through the motions, you disrupt that automatic mode. You remind your brain that there's a conscious person in charge of this life. And something interesting happens when you start doing this regularly. You begin to notice things you missed before. You start to actually feel your experiences instead of just logging them as completed tasks. You remember what it's like to be engaged with your own life. The key is to start small. Pick one routine activity and commit to being fully present for it each day. Maybe it's your morning coffee. Maybe it's the walk from your car to your building. Maybe it's the last 5 minutes before you go to sleep. Just one thing where you practice actually being there instead of just going through the motions. But presence alone isn't enough. You also need to start shaking things up. Remember how your brain needs variety to feel alive? You need to start giving it what it's craving. This doesn't mean you need to completely change your life. You just need to start introducing small bits of novelty, little challenges, tiny adventures into your routine. Take a different route home. Try a restaurant you've never been to. Pick up a book in a genre you normally wouldn't read. Learn something new, even if it's just watching a tutorial on YouTube about something that interests you. The goal isn't to become someone completely different, it's to start coloring outside the lines of your usual routine. To give your brain those little hits of this is new, this is interesting, that it's been missing. You might try taking a class, joining a group, or setting a small challenge for yourself. Maybe you decide to cook one new recipe each week. Maybe you start taking photos of interesting things you notice during your day. Maybe you commit to having one real conversation with someone new each week. The key is to start moving in the direction of curiosity instead of just comfort. When you feel the urge to do something different, to try something new, to step slightly outside your routine, follow that urge. That's your authentic self trying to wake up and engage with life again. You'll probably feel some resistance at first. Change, even small change, can feel uncomfortable when you've been on autopilot for a while. But push through that discomfort, because on the other side of it is the feeling of being alive that you've been missing. But the deepest wake-up call comes when you reconnect with what actually matters to you. Not what you think should matter, not what matters to other people, but what genuinely lights something up inside you. This might take some detective work because you might have lost touch with your authentic interests and values over the years, but they're still there, probably buried under layers of other people's expectations and society's definitions of success. Start by paying attention to what naturally draws your interest. What topics do you find yourself reading about without being assigned to? What activities make you lose track of time? What conversations make you feel most like yourself? What problems in the world make you feel angry or motivated to help? Think back to times when you felt most alive, most engaged, most like yourself. What were you doing? What values were you expressing? What parts of yourself were you using? This isn't about finding your one true passion or discovering your life's purpose in some grand way. It's about reconnecting with the things that make you feel like you're expressing who you really are instead of just playing a role. Maybe you realize you miss being creative. Maybe you remember how much you used to love learning new things. Maybe you recognize that helping others gives you energy in a way that nothing else does. Maybe you discover that you're happiest when you're building something, solving problems, being in nature, connecting with people. Whatever it is, start making space for it in your life. Not someday when you have more time or money or when life calms down. Now, in small ways. Because when you start living according to your actual values instead of the values you think you should have, something inside you starts to wake up. As you start doing this, as you begin waking up from the sleepwalk, something beautiful starts to happen. You stop feeling like you're watching your life from the outside. You start feeling like you're actually living it. Your days stop feeling like they're just happening to you and start feeling like you're actively choosing them. You stop going through the motions and start experiencing moments. You stop following a script and start improvising your own story. It doesn't happen all at once. It's not like flipping a switch. It's more like a gradual awakening, a slow return to yourself. But once it starts, once you begin to remember what it feels like to be truly alive and engaged, you'll wonder how you lived any other way. You'll start to notice beauty in ordinary moments. You'll feel excitement about possibilities again. You'll have real conversations instead of just exchanging pleasantries. You'll make choices that reflect who you are instead of who you think you should be. And here's the thing nobody tells you about waking up from sleepwalking through life. It's not just about feeling better. It's about becoming who you actually are instead of who you've been pretending to be. It's about living your actual life instead of just managing it. The life you've been sleepwalking through, it was never meant to be just endured. It was meant to be lived. Fully, consciously, authentically. And you don't need anyone's permission to start. You just need to wake up. One moment, one choice, one authentic action at a time. The life you've been sleepwalking through, it was never meant to be just endured. It was meant to be lived. Fully, consciously, authentically. And the beautiful truth is, you don't need anyone's permission to start. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment or the right circumstances. You just need to begin. One moment, one choice, one authentic action at a time. Your real life is waiting for you. Not someday, not when everything is figured out, but right now. In this moment. In the next breath you take, the next choice you make, the next opportunity you have to show up as who you really are instead of who you think you should be. So here's my question for you. What's one small thing you could do today to start waking up from the sleepwalk? If this video helped you see something you hadn't noticed before, if it gave you that little nudge toward waking up, then hit that like button. And if you want more reminders to stay awake in your own life, to keep choosing presence over autopilot, then subscribe. Because the most important conversation you'll ever have is the one between who you've been and who you're becoming.